What's up, everybody, and welcome back to my channel. It's time for another recap of what went down on this week's episode of Teen Mom 2. So we pick back up where the ambulance arrive at the house to check on Briana, and they claim that her mom, Christy, disappearing with Jade's percocet pills is a criminal matter at that point, because apparently you can only get one prescription per month for those pills. So they can't even offer her any percocet, like, in the hospital or anything like that, because she already has an open prescription recently filled for them. They can only give her other meds that, will probably work at 1 hour at a time until Christy shows up again with her percocet pills. Speaking of Christy, her chaotic ass comes back limping. I don't know where she got this limp from, but all of a sudden she comes back limping with the pills, just as Briana is suggesting calling the police to report her missing with them. Oh my God, these people are wild. I feel like it was a little bit too coincidental that Christy arrived at that exact moment. Do you guys feel like, the producers might have tipped her off to the ambulance being there? Over and over, Kail shows us, the plot of land she's going to build her house on, then this wallpaper business that she's got, but I skipped through it because, unless you are giving us wallpapers of your mugshot, I don't want to hear about it. Now, in West Virginia, you guys, why did Leah need an office space? What does she do? And why did she rent a townhouse as an office space with this friend? And what does her friend do? Or is her friend part of this business that Leah allegedly has that we don't know about? A little bit of explanation would have been nice. So she's also planning Addie's birthday party. Maybe that's what she's got, an event planning business, a birthday planning business for her children. I don't know. And Jeremy calls to say that he won't be able to make it, unfortunately. Then we head over to Florida again, where Briana ultimately returns home to Orlando and describes the Jade situation to her mom and sister. Brittany claims that she would have passed out at the mere sight of blood, but I'm like, sis, you got a BBL at the same time as your sister and Kail. So, in addition to your own blood, you probably saw quite a bit of blood from the other girls as well. So, let's keep it 100 here. Now, Ashley in California officially decides to call off the engagement party that, she was going to have for her engagement to Bar over what she claims are COVID concerns. But before, her main concerns were familial related and money related as well. Because remember, they were moving and she wanted to have money for the house. They had to pay the year in advance. She still does want to celebrate her engagement, of course. So they decide that they want to go for like a wine tasting in Napa, but she would love for him to get his ankle monitor off before they go over there. And, I agree with her. So it's officially been 3 days since Jade's BBL surgery, and she's still in agony. Sean complains about her parents not helping her, at all. And he says that they don't know what they would have done if Briana and Shirley didn't show up. But again, Jade went to Miami with like 7 different people. So why were they only relying on Briana and Briana's own friend Shirley, who hadn't even met Jade before going to Miami? Where were the rest of her people? That the girl with the kid, and then where's the cousin? Like, where are those people? So speaking of, we actually finally get to see, the other girl that she went with, Kelsey, the one who's got the son, who apparently hasn't done anything for her. So she's talking to a producer, and she claims that Jade is doing well in her recovery. According to the doctors, the wounds are healing properly. I noticed that her eyes were also hanging a little bit low, but that's neither here nor there. Just a little bit of a side note. And she claims that there's been a lot of drama in the house because Jade's parents are refusing to watch her daughter Chloe like they were supposed to. So what exactly are they there for then at that point, right? So Chloe is crying out for Jade apparently, but Jade doesn't want to see the daughter. Guys, the attachment issues that I suspect this child is going to have, I don't want to say more than that, but just wow, it just sounds really dysfunctional at that point. Why bring the child? Why could it not have been that Sean stayed at the house with their daughter Chloe back in Indiana, where they're from, and then her parents F off to whatever extended stay motel they're currently living at, and then, this friend Kelsey go and watch Jade? I don't you know what I mean? Or her cousin go and watch Jade. She had 7 people around her to do nothing and, not even shield her daughter from the chaos that is going off. It is just a complete fail. These people do not know how to delegate whatsoever. So apparently Jade is suffering from panic attacks and depression as a result of all of the drama. Guys, like at this point, why not just kick your parents out? Like she's not obligated to keep them there. Like tell them, go back to like, you know, Indiana and leave me alone because you're not doing what I need you to do. It's all just weird. It's weird. Back in Dover again, Kayla's doing more advertising, you know, and the scene, by the way, only lasts like 30 seconds at this point. I think they're kind of over her. And then we're back in Florida again, where Louis texts Briana asking to see Stella, you know, for the second time. Remember, he did a couple of weeks ago, asked to see her. Briana took her to some sort of a jamboree and got her really hyped up for her dad visiting. And then he ultimately wound up ghosting, claiming that, you know, he only sleeps an hour a day. And so he happened to like fall asleep for several hours on the day that he was supposed to see his daughter for the first time in months. So it's funny to me that Briana immediately, no questions asked, agrees to Louis seeing Stella because, you know, he stood her up the last time, right? And never faced any kind of consequences. She didn't even curse him out by text the way that she curses Devon out by text. Meanwhile, you know, if Devon is late to see Nova or whatever, or he accidentally, you know what I mean? Like she withholds Nova from him for weeks as punishment. And funny enough, it's not just punishment to Devon, it's punishment to Nova as well, who is used to seeing her dad on a regular basis. So again, she's very malleable to what Louis needs from her. She doesn't care what time Louis comes to see Stella. In fact, she doesn't know what time he's planning to see Stella. So she's planning her whole day around when he's ready. She's like, you know, I'm going to take her to the park. I'm not going to tell her her dad's coming, but I'm going to take her to the park. And then, you know, I told Louis, tell me when you're an hour away from the house and I'm going to jump up like a dog and get ready to go to the house and bring Stella to see you. Isn't that interesting, you guys? You know, what she's willing to do for this man who the daughter doesn't even really know at this point. If I were her, I would just let it go. Let it go. That is not something she ever does for Devon. Remember, if Devon is even 5, 10, 15 minutes late, Nova's having a meltdown, Devon. You're ruining her life, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, back in California, Ashley is whining about Bar's house arrest, holding up his and their life together as if it's not a very serious consequence for a literal crime that he committed. You know, he operated a motor vehicle under the influences of drugs or alcohol. Remember, I didn't follow these people before the show, so I don't know if he was on drugs or if he was on alcohol. He's got a DUI, okay? So, like, he wasn't randomly selected to wear this ankle monitor for punishment. So just stop it at this point. Stop whining. Then in Indiana, Sean is minding his own business in the parking garage with his head against the steering wheel when the producers approach him, trying to get him to talk to them. And then he flips out about not having been glammed up for the cameras. He's like, do you think I would film in this condition? And I was like, well, yeah, that's how you always look to me anyway. And so he's like, I don't want to film, cameras down, cameras down. And to me, it's like, it's one thing when these actual quote unquote teen moms refuse to film because, you know, the show does center around them. But when there are hangers on, you know, the grimy boyfriends start calling the shots too, it makes me uncomfortable at this point. You look like a clown trying to call the shots on a show called Teen Mom. Anyway, he keeps berating, you know, the crew, the producers or whatever, when Jade is limping by in the background, all bandaged up, and she screams at him to stop through like her mouth where she can barely even open it. Because remember, she had like the neck or chin or whatever, lipo. Like her scenes are always so fucking wild. It's just like, I hear like the circus music in the background, always the cymbals. I see like flying pigs, monkeys doing somersaults. Like it's just always so chaotic in Jade's world. I swear to God. Kail then starts promoting over in Dover Isaac as some sort of an author. And again, I zoom on by, like she is really struggling for scenes at this point. I think we can let her go. She's got nothing to offer us, you guys. So back to Florida, it turns out that Louis stood Stella up for the millionth time. And at this point, Briana's mom, Roxanne, suggests just getting him to sign away his parental rights, you know, because he's not even a parent at this point, right? And so Briana says she's giving him 2 more Saturdays before she ultimately does that. And I say, good for her. You're trying. but this man is not trying, and you can only do so much. And, it's just not fair to the daughter at this point. I am glad, though, that this time she did not tell Stella that Lewis was coming, because, that would have been really heartbreaking for her to go through for a second time. So now back in West Virginia, it is time for Addie's birthday party, and Leah surprises her with Jeremy at the door. Now, back in Miami, Jade's dad and Sean got into another physical fight. Guys, I swear they're all crazy, these people. They're wild. And so Christy comes out to describe the situation because Jade is still refusing to film in the house. And she claims that it started when her credit card, quote unquote, flipped out of her purse and hit Chloe. And then Sean was like, what are you guys doing with my daughter? What happened? Blah, blah, blah. And gets all pissed off, confronts the dad, and then, swings on him. And, I'm like, how does a credit card just fly out of a purse? Like, you don't have a wallet, sis? Like, what? And like just automatically hit the daughter. Was the daughter right under the purse? Like, did it fly around like a paper plate? I've got a lot of questions about that story. It's weird. I don't believe she threw the credit card at Chloe, but I don't know. The credit card flew out of my purse just sounds a little weird to me, and hit the daughter in the face. She's like, okay, well, while the fight was breaking out, Jade wanted to see what was going on. So she gets up, and she couldn't, that quickly or whatever, because she's still in recovery. And then she gets injured. And I'm like, oh my God. So she's like, Jade at this point called me a worthless mom. And, sis, if the missing Percocet bag fits, wear it, right? So Christy claims that they've been trying to help with Chloe all this time, but Sean isn't letting them. I always feel gaslit in Jade and her mom and like Sean and all of this. Like, none of it ever makes any sense, because it wasn't even Sean who was talking about her not being there for Chloe that much. Well, yeah, he mentioned something, but the person who really went in on her in that capacity was the random friend Kelsey. You know what I mean? And I feel like Kelsey was witnessing this stuff between the mom, and Jade was confiding in her about the situation as well. So it's like, I don't know. Well, where does the truth lie here, right? Because everyone's just got their own little tale. So we go back to California, where Barr comes home with a freshly liberated ankle and describes how he'll need to go to a DUI program and perform community service before getting his license back. He claims to have learned his lesson, but I doubt it. I feel like, he's going to be in some kind of trouble again in the near future. In fact, wasn't he recently arrested for something else? So back in Miami again, Sean brags about being unharmed in the scuffle with Jade's 60-year-old stepdad. Congratulations. You in your 20s managed to take on a 60-year-old man. That's impressive. Wow. So he corroborates Christy's story about the credit card flying out of her purse. I still find it to be a very strange story, but I digress. And he claims that he threatened her dad, and, it was her dad who threw the first punch. Then he describes Jade being in pain after her heart rate went up from the entire situation. These people are like the Three Stooges, circus music in the background, then the Three Stooges. And it's just especially funny because they don't realize that they just all look like crazy, like wild. You know what I mean? Like they all think they're serious and stuff. And that's what makes them so Three Stoogey to me. So anyway, Jade finally decides to speak in this episode of the show, and she doesn't want the camera on her because, she's still very bandaged up and everything, but she tells a producer with the microphones on that her mom has been disappointing her and blah, 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 but it's a bit wild to think that she doesn't realize that the same drama and disappointments and chaos that her mother has inflicted on her over the years or throughout her life or whatever is the same stuff that she seems to be inflicting on her daughter. You know what I mean? From the move, thieves in the middle of the night, escaping from the IRS or whatever, to just the constantly screaming and you know what I mean? They were screaming at that child like crazy when it was them who decided to chaotically move. They're constantly just so horrible to this child, in my humble opinion. And even with this whole surgery thing, what was the purpose of bringing your daughter to the same house with you in Miami for the surgery if you didn't even want to see her? She knows you're in the house, but you don't want to see her. It's weird, Jade. You are just as weird and as dysfunctional as your own mom. And I think your daughter, when she's able to, articulate those thoughts, is probably going to tell you that. Anyway, you guys, that does it. A recap of what went down on this week's episode of Teen Mom 2. But as usual, I'm more excited to hear what you have to say about everything. So please make sure to let me know all of your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below, and we'll chat. That's all for now. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.